In this day and age, the economy is in a tight spot. If you want to survive in an apartment or rental, you pretty much need to get a roommate, whether you know them or not. And while last time I argued for 8 horror characters that I believe would probably make for better roommates than some real people out there, I also really want to look at the reverse, and show you some characters you definitely don't want to sign in on your lease. But if you didn't watch the last video, your immediate thought will probably be that all horror characters would be a bad roommate, seeing they just kill you. But to actually make things interesting, I've had both these lists go in with one rule. The character must be at least a friendly acquaintance with you. So in other words, this isn't a, oh no, this guy's a bad roommate because he'll give you 28 stab wounds. This is more looking into how their character would just suck to live with, and would not help in the slightest or cause you even more problems. And so, here are the top 8 horror characters that would be such awful roommates you'd honestly rather they just kill you. Number 8. Jumping Julian from Julian and Friends. Julian comes from a world that literally centers around him, and it shows. After getting a visitor that they just met, they immediately enlist them in doing things for them and spending the rest of the day preparing for his wife's birthday, and also forces you into doing most of the work, like with fixing Gerald's shelves, driving a spaceship, searching through boxes, or writing his wife's birthday card for him and drawing it for him. Him asking for a little help is fine, but having it where not even your wife's birthday card is written by her actual husband shows a rather materialistic yet lazy side. He gets gems from space and jewels from the sea, sure, though with the space one we were driving the spaceship, so technically we got it. When it comes to actually showing care, he's one step away from just having ChatGPT write it instead. And if he's like that for his wife, he's probably gonna be just as uncaring in the apartment too, especially as Julian's character is shown to be very two-faced and fake nice. After the first playthrough, he starts being kind of a dick and showing his true colors, like in Darcy's dance studio where Darcy mentions that their vision is getting harder and is thinking about getting glasses, and Julian makes fun of her to us in front of her about an aspect of her appearance that she cannot change. The type of people who just make fun of their friends behind their backs tend to also be the types to make fun of you behind your back. Also, in the second playthrough, Angelica is sad that her frogs ran away and can't find them, and Julian rolls their eyes when this little girl cries about that. Anything mildly inconvenient to them or results in them having to do even the most mild of consoling seems to make them so annoyed. All the while, they drag you across the town, the hypocrite. So if your dog gets out and you're concerned for their well-being, Julian rolls his eyes at a child's runaway pet. So he probably won't take you worrying about your pets that seriously either, and will make you feel like you're being inconsiderate for just having feelings about it. I can honestly see a situation where if you ask them to feed your dog while you're at work, he'd never do it but pretend he did. And if taken to an extreme, he could even be the type to just let your dog escape the house so it stops bothering him. Like, I don't think he'd outright try to kill them, but it wouldn't put him past giving your dog a little chocolate or avocado just to get them sick enough that they'll leave them alone, and he could just be lazy on the couch all day instead of taking care of them. On the second playthrough, there's also this rocket ship in which he says, "Check out this cool rocket ship I found," meaning it's not his, and he just kinda steals it without any regard, and by the time you're on playthrough 3, it's crashed so you can't click on it again. So add wanton destruction of property to the list too. He'll likely use your stuff while you're gone and won't care if he ruins or breaks it on accident. Not to mention, after having you get these space gems, he then goes on this rather long rant about how much cooler his game is compared to other games, which just goes to show his insecurity and the need to tear others down to bolster himself. That's not going to go away when you get him as a roommate. Plus, this is all for his wife's birthday, which itself wasn't well thought out given he's just getting everything last minute, and also has this absolute stranger show up and stay for the party, which is kind of awkward for her, given she doesn't know who you are. Like, having random people at your birthday party is something that you hear about for super young kids, sure, but I feel like after a point, it just becomes really weird and intrusive, and this is her husband. Basically, he's very irresponsible, he just generally lacks any regard for others unless he's last minute getting something together for an occasion, but even then he's gonna have everyone else do the work for him. So not only can you expect him to not do anything around the house, probably ask Grok how to use a dishwasher, but will likely con you into doing things for him, like calling up the electric company, or trick you into giving him a dozen second chances, and just all around being taxing for your mental health while he uses you and uses you. Number 7. Walking Businessman from Exit 8. A shorter one given just how short this game is and what little we actually know about this guy, but I'm very confident in this one. This man walks every single day to work, from work, but no matter what, you will never know if the man that's walking home to your apartment is an anomaly or if it's actually him. And that paranoia is honestly going to be just really insufferable to deal with. I know it's not his fault, but genuinely think about it. Did he get off late, or is him coming home early an anomaly? Does he have slightly more of a smile on his face from a good day, or from an alternate version version of him that has one extra mouth muscle. You throw him out of the house because instead of soullessly eating a bowl of Cheerios with that sad look on his face knowing today is another day at the office, he was eating Lucky Charms instead and you thought that was an anomaly? Turns out, he was just feeling like Lucky Charms that day. And now, you're never gonna hear the end of it. But you also can't just hope for the best, because if you're living with an escaped anomaly wearing his skin, that's definitely not gonna look good on your security deposit, especially if that starts creating anomalies within the whole apartment block and turns into the apartment from Cursed Apartment, which is another Exit 8-like game. Look, if I can hardly pay for the security deposit for myself, I don't think I'm paying the security deposit for every apartment in our block that got flooded with the blood flood my roommate decided to bring home. Not to mention, he refuses to look at you in the eyes in-game, which just really puts off this air of someone beaten down by the corporate ladder so much that they're gonna make you feel worse about the world than you already feel. And that's without him saying a word. He doesn't even look directly at his phone. He just stares past it. There is no happiness left in this man. This is the type of person who just wake up, go to work, go home, go straight to bed, and does nothing to try and change that because they've entirely given up. Living like that is really depressing. And would also leave you with all the chores around the house. Sure, he might pay rent, but he's just an empty vessel and will likely not make any effort to be your friend, and will not accept your efforts to either, because they're just trying to wait out the economy and hope something will eventually happen to finally let them exist as a human being. Because anomaly or not, he isn't one, and he won't be for a long while. Maybe when the light returns to his eyes, he'll be a better roommate, but until then, just let him have his peace. Number 6. K-Angel, aka Ame-chan, from Needy Streamer Overload. If you've played or even seen this game for even a few seconds, just one playthrough will show you that K-Angel is very mentally ill to the point they are definitely not ready for a roommate. I know there's a big online joke of how I can fix her, but I don't think they can handle being around people once their mental darkness and stress get above 40. And you really need to anticipate seeing the worst of a person if you're going to be living with them. The whole point of the game is that there are really no happy endings for Ame-chan. I mean, in several endings they take heavy drugs and will straight up quit their job on a whim on several endings, of which includes you using the bed too much. They are heavily dependent on P-chan, the player character, to the point that they constantly text each other despite living in the same house, and have to be explicitly told to do everything by them, including things like going outside or going to bed, with the only exception being the final ending that you get when you get to every other ending. They even outright say that they would die without the player character. I know there's a pretty common theory, which I myself believe in too, that P-chan isn't actually real at all, but even then, being so lacking in affection that you make of an entirely fictional person just to get through the day and remind you to take care of yourself, that's a bad omen to whoever's gonna be their new roommate, because those impossible fantasy P-chan expectations are going to be thrown onto them. And trust me, when your expectation of reality is based around a fictional character, you are never going to cut it, because the fictional character will always be better. Also, in several endings, she becomes so unbelievably stressed that she does dozens of really bad things on stream, commits loads of self-harm, and in one ending it's implied that she commits murder-suicide live on stream. Heck, not even just the endings. If at any point their mental darkness is above 80, she will ask you to buy charcoal which she intends to use to light herself on fire as a method. And not to mention the whole game happens because they decide they want to be a streamer and commit to that only 1 week before rent is due and they get evicted. And as such, she puts that pressure on you and has you build her to monetization all in 1 week, with the main goal being 1 million subscribers after only a month, which if she doesn't get, she will quit, and if she does get, she will not appreciate in any capacity and will ghost you anyways. She is an impulse junkie that is this close to realizing they are an impulse junkie, but hasn't pieced that together yet. She puts impossible goals and expectations on others, but rarely gives those expectations to herself, despite her extraordinarily low self-image and constant self-deprecation. She's the type of roommate that will not teach themselves how to do things, and if they don't know how to do something, they will never willingly try to themselves, and will just go with weaponized incompetence so you don't even try to make them do their part again. Because in their mind, making themselves look stupid on purpose is better than looking silly for a few seconds when learning how. They're also the type of person that will likely not be willing to do therapy unless you make them do it. as until they get some help or get on a good medication that they won't abuse, you're the one who will have to experience all of the anger and recklessness that come afterwards, and experience the forefront of all of her trauma firsthand. And you're doing all of this for someone who will, I'm sorry to say, likely lose their job rapidly due to said mental health crisis. And even if they get a successful one, like with the streaming, they won't stick to it even if it gives them money. Again, impulse junkie. If the dopamine don't flow, then the task gotta go. Oh yeah, and we're going off of like the best case scenario here. In the case of the really bad endings, they get doxxed, meaning you'll be getting the brunt of any ill will intended for Ame the KA Angel, which could include pipe bombs, stalking, getting your car keyed, or possibly dying in a swatting attempt. And that's true even in the not so bad endings. In one of them, she becomes a cult leader, and in another, she becomes a naughty streamer, which is ripe for stalkings and bad things. In other words, unless K Angel is a good way into therapy and willingly gets help prior to the move, this is just gonna be a bad situation and a ticking time bomb waiting to happen, regardless of the ending and what point of her streaming career she is in. Number 5. Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club. Although I'm sure a lot of people would probably argue that Monica would be great to live with, probably because they played Monica After Story a little too much and forgot it was fan-made, trust me when I say that if Monica was finally brought into the real world, you would have quite a problem on your hands. Because Monica is a digital entity. So if you guys became roommates, and she got herself a genuine human body that looks entirely normal and does not have big anime eyes, it would be a similar case to the guy who was marked as dead. No social security number, no way to open a credit card, no way to get a job due to the fact you don't exist to the government, and by all means, Monica couldn't do anything and would look hella suspicious to any governmental body. Hell, if you lived in an apartment or a rental, there's a high chance that you'd have to hide her because there's no way to put in all of the legal things that your house person would want. Because again, as far as the government is aware, she doesn't exist. She'd pretty much be a roommate with no job and no ability to ever get one. Plus, if she's as possessive of you as in the games, she'd probably be more akin to an obsessive controlling ex who'd key your car if she thought you were out with someone else. Within the game itself, she wasn't really the best communicator, as she herself never tried to tell you that she was sentient in the game prior to deleting everything else in the world. Even when you and her were alone, she'd just do these weird, cryptic, vague riddles and hints, rather than just outright telling you anything, which of course resulted in her getting deleted. And given her character, I somehow doubt that she'd be any different in the real world. One of those types never tells you if they're mad at you, but will subtly hint at it by accidentally telling the IRS you haven't paid your taxes. Monica After Stories Monica gets better, sure, but that's an entirely fan-made version of her that is inherently a pipe dream, where she is significantly less controlling and acts understanding and talks with you, whereas the pure canon version just isn't like that. It's canon versus fanon, but even if this entry was for the fanon version of her, she doesn't seem like the type of person who'd want to spend their entire life being forced to depend on you, thanks to not having proof of being a real person, and definitely not the type of person content to be what is effectively a platonic housewife, unable to live outside of you. That's something I don't think any version of Monica would be content with, regardless of how much they like and or love you. Number 4. Satan from Pony Island. Before you even start the game, you can see how bad this guy's code is, and in order to progress, you need to fix it for him, because the loading bar gets stuck in a loop before you can even play. But if you do fix it, he immediately accosts you as his first ever interaction. And if that's not a bad omen of how much of a Reddit mod he'd likely be to live with, I don't know what is. Also, he gets so angry that you thought the game was easy, or at least that he perceived that you thought the game was easy, as you didn't even say that he decides to be a passive-aggressive doink about it and make it literally impossible to beat. When you turn on the pony lasers in his settings, he gets mad and says that you can't play with it, and to turn it off even though it's literally programmed into his game. And then he beheads the pony avatar for it. You know that time when Yandere Dev made his first rival's bodyguard able to smell gasoline and lock out an entire elimination method because he was upset at how fast speedrunners could beat Osana? You know, the tutorial rival? This is that. This is literally that. Do you want to live with Yandere Dev? I didn't think so. After playing 2 levels of his buggy game, the only way to get the full version is not by paying real money, but instead giving your literal soul. And while we were able to get around it, if you click on help.txt after this, it's revealed that he traps souls in the computer to endlessly playtest this stupid game that, need I remind you, is literally just jumping fences up until he adds the impossible demon guys and later adventure mode. Talking with Hopeless Soul, Satan gets really possessive about you talking with other people and forces you to say yes, master, which shows they'll probably be pretty clingy and pry into your social life a bunch, and will just generally be a toxic POS every single time they don't know everything you are doing all of the time. All the stereotypes of the possessive partner without any of the perks of getting one. He also straight up gasses you when you try to delete the game because he can't take the idea that you might not like it and want to sell your soul for it, so he just kind of baby rages at the tiniest thing. Oh yeah, and also he's literally Satan from the Bible, so
it's really cute that you're gonna defeat me with the power of friendship and all, but again, I am the devil from the Bible.
So basically, you'd be living with an extremely insecure game developer that will get angry at you for even perceived criticism, but he also is possessive, a dick, includes a self-insert to bolster his ego, and more. Expect his room to be an absolute mess of moldy plates that he never put away, and suspiciously yellow bottles of water under his desk. Oh yeah, and seeing he takes his payment in souls, he's not paying rent. Don't even ask. He'll just assume you're making fun of him again, and then ban you from r/art. Number 3. Grace Aesop from Lacey Games. I got some bones to pick with Gracie Aesop. From the videos, we know that they have constantly lied about their friend who died. Their friend who was a main part of their business. They state they don't care they went missing when they knew them for several years, which, if that doesn't say anything, again, I don't know what does. There are so many red flags here. They end up hooking this other person, Charlie's, brain into what is at best a very buggy, broken website not designed for it, and at worst is a cursed haunted one, of which ends up crashing your brain at the end of the demo. They seem like the type to refuse to do anything and then complain behind your back about how you are the lazy one and a complete slob while they do all the work around the house. I say that because the entire demo they have you doing everything for them and will be weirdly coy about giving you any details about anything, despite clearly knowing more than they're letting on. They display clear manipulation, and to top it all off, they hardly remember your name after just putting you under what is a very, very dangerous brain surgery. Kinda makes you wonder with the whole Rocio deleting herself thing, if this is how she did it, and if Gracie straight up killed her. Fan theories aside, despite everything they say about Rocio's mental break, it seems like living with Grace would be one of those households where you constantly have to pretend everything is fine, and just being frustrated or sad is just seen as bothersome. You just got broken up with your longtime boyfriend? Can you take it outside, please? I don't want to deal with it right now, or ever. Never talk to me again, please. And even though they constantly blame all of the scary things from Lacey Games on Rocio, Gracie seems almost suspiciously proud of it in this game. Namely, her first dialogue after you play Lacey's wardrobe, where she seems almost giddy at the idea that some kids might still have nightmares about it. Although the dialogue looks like it's sarcasm, her tone totally says otherwise by a mile, despite her shortly afterwards saying that it's Rocio and how traumatizing little kids was her hobby. If we can't even trust the basic things she's saying on a day-to-day basis, what makes you think you can trust her with paying rent, not eating your leftovers, and not complaining to you in private to the landlord so you get kicked out when she decides she's done with you? Like, genuinely, she seems like an awful person. Number 2. Father from Bad Cheese. This is one of those few horror games that come from the Steamboat Willie public domain boom that actually stuck around and did a pretty decent job at its horror. Bad Cheese is a grotesque rubber hose style game that follows you playing Mousy, as you do various tasks, primarily to prevent your neglectful and abusive father, portrayed as this eldritch sludge thing, from being angry. The kid is super neglected, the house is a mess, and the kid is actively afraid of his dad. When father comes home, he immediately sends you to bed because he doesn't even want to deal with you, and father's friends barge into your room during multiple parts of the game to tell them to shut the TV off and go to bed. And these strangers will actively get physical with the kid if you fail to hide trying to play a game. A game that, mind you, is alone in their room. So basically the kid isn't allowed to exist when the dad wants to do things. The kid is just peacefully playing Pong in his room. If it's too loud, then just ask him to turn it down or something. But also, this is a massive house. Just don't be next to his room. And that's assuming that he was really making making that much noise. It's Pong! And also after the fact, the dad gets the kid up and has him scrounge around the house for his pain pills, which it says on the bottle that you only need 1 or 2, but the kid has them get a whole 3 bottles worth before immediately telling them to go away. And one of these bottles you need to get within 10 seconds of the other one, or he says you'll be severely punished. You can also learn when looking at the backpack sometime around the Pong section that the dad was supposed to take their kid to school, to which they also say that he probably just had too much work, which implies this is a frequent enough occurrence that the child just brushes it off. So basically he's irresponsible, an uncaring jackass, an addict, neglectful of both his son and himself on a regular basis, though mostly his son, abusive. Having him as a roommate would not only result in a net zero of helping pay with rent, chores, and other things, but will be a net negative of now having an absolutely dead awful old guy who will be violent while treating the most mild signs of life as the end of the world. Look, if he's willing to do it to his son, he's probably gonna be more than willing to do it to anyone. But even with the fact that he has to be a positive acquaintance, he's constantly gonna be asking you to do everything for him, and will likely not let you say anything about his pill addiction, alcohol consumption, or how he treats his poor kid. And with how sound sensitive he seems to be, I don't think he'll be too happy with you doing much of anything while he's home. There's a whole section where he gets so mad at the kid for going to the bathroom that he runs around the halls of the bathroom yelling and trying to get them. And given Momsy is the one that usually does the cleaning, and if not, then they throw that responsibility to their child rather than the other adult, then I am 110% sure that he's just gonna slug around all day and not do anything. You'd better bet that he's going to take control of everything and constantly invite his friends over, all the while shouting at anyone or anything you bring to your house. Genuinely, even writing about this guy took energy out of me. I would sooner slam my head against the wall until I think at the same level as this man than I would ever consider signing him into my apartment. This man would give you childhood trauma in your late 30s. Now get him off my screen. Thank you. And lastly, for number 1 on this list, Garfield, aka Kitty, from the last Monday. Okay, so Garf needs help finding a key to the house and asks you, a stranger, or more specifically a kid in the actual game, to help him find it. And what happens when you do so and help like the good Samaritan you are? He pushes you into his basement, almost gets you murdered by the other person he kidnapped, makes you do a bunch of tasks, and after he tells you to burn a relic, then proceeds to force adopt you, in that he now makes you act like he's your dad, has you put away a bunch of toys that aren't yours, makes you dig around in the yard and then kills the dog, gets mad at you for burning a lasagna when he was right there to stop it from burning and also probably should not have had a child in charge of, makes us kill over 26 people at a gas station by having us hallucinate that they were lasagna instead, and more. And this doesn't even break the rule, given he likes us because we're so easy to manipulate, due to being a child. So these are all things that he did while being chill with us and liking us. Just because he likes you does not make you immune to getting screwed over on a generational level. On top of that, we already know how he treated his last roommate, as he made them cut out their own tongue and write, "I am not the master," when they asked pretty basic rental questions in reality, like who currently owns the place he's being forced to crash at, and what he means by nobody's coming back here. Also, did he really need to get him butt naked when they took over John's body to force him to cut off his own tongue? Like, did he really need to do that? What was the purpose of that? Anyways, it's clear that John doesn't like Garf, and Garf doesn't like John. But despite that, Garf forces John to stay. So having a cruel and sadistic roommate that can take over your head, and that you have to listen to or else you'll get arrested for the murders he forced you to commit, or get your tongue cut out, and does all of that while not even like hating you, it's not just a lose-lose, it's a blunder. You're fucked. There is nothing recoverable about this. Like, even with the starting thing, he was sitting on the key, so he was not only too lazy to get it out from under him, but also punished you for trying to do good by kidnapping you. So you're not gonna be his roommate. You're either gonna get stabbed to death on the first day by possessed John, or you're gonna get Garf-brained and forced into honestly the worst, most toxic corporate ladder of your life that you have a 90% chance of taking to the grave. I don't even think I need to go into the specifics of the exact scenarios that would be shitty to deal with in an apartment and go, oh no, he's gonna eat your leftovers, and just say that you forgot. Forget that! If he likes you, he's going to actively torture you for the rest of your life. No eviction possible. And your best scenario is that he doesn't like you and you just die on the spot. No eldritch strings attached. I would rather have 15 Julians in an Aesop than ever have this thing rattling around in my brain because I needed the extra $20 to pay rent. Do you want me to explain why having ye olden Egyptian sadist god is bad? Do you want me to explain why having a demonic landlord do the creepy crawlies across the gray matter of your brain is not fun? You already know! Look at the footage! There's your answer! Anyways, that's the top 8 horror characters that would be such bad roommates you'd wish they'd just kill you. Both this one and its mirrored video were actually scrapped videos that I wrote the listing of over half a year ago, sometime in August I think, but didn't write most of the reasons why until recently, and thus had to rewatch nearly all of the games I mentioned on the list, so I actually remembered what I was talking about or why they were on here. In fact, I don't think any of the characters were changed out, and the only true change was that I changed the order, and then actually finally scripted this thing. If you want to see who the best roommates would be though, be sure to look at my last video, which goes over some roommates that you might want to consider if you're a little lower on rent than expected. With that though, that's all I have for now. Leave your tip at the door, my friends, because I'll see you next time. Bye!